friends, welcome. Today's video is all about preserving for the month of August. I am joining the Three Rivers Homestead Challenge with Jessica on preserving something every day through the month of August. I recently in June had a mastectomy for breast cancer, so I couldn't do anything in June or July. I'm gearing up now to get busy to start putting up food in the freezer, in the pantry, from canning to dehydrating to freezing. So we're going to kick this off and get busy. I've got so many things I did this week. I recently purchased a big bushel bag of speckled butter beans, which are my favorite. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to blanch these and pack them in the freezer. We're going to make some delicious peach jam with these beautiful peaches, and I'm also going to freeze some of these. I made hot pepper vinegar, so easy. I'll show you how to do that. And then my Roma tomatoes that came out of my garden, I had put those in the freezer, took them out, and I made some pizza sauce. So let's get busy. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you check out the link in the description box below. There are many people participating in this challenge, and you'll learn so much from the other ladies. So let's get started.
All right, first up, we're going to take that bushel of shelled speckled butter beans that I picked up at my favorite produce stand. This is a full bushel that's already been shelled, and it's like $48, but it was well worth it to me. So I love butter beans. I love them in my soup. So the first step is you have to wash them. The sheller does not clean them. They just shell them, and you've got to get all of that dirt and grime off the butter beans. So I just use my salad spinner, and I rinse these about 3 times. On the stove, I do have a pot of water boiling because you have to blanch fresh butter beans. So there's the pot of water. I'm going to put in about half of this bowl. I'm going to bring it back to a boil and then let this boil for 2 to 3 minutes at a high boil. And then I've got another bowl that is full of ice water. As soon as the 3 minutes is up, I take those right off to stop that cooking process. I douse it right into the ice water. Now I'll do the other bowl, and we'll be ready to start bagging these up in just a minute. You let these sit in the ice water until they've cooled some. Then what I do is I spread out a couple of clean dish towels, and I will spread these out so that they will continue to cool. You don't want to put these up warm in the freezer because they'll form crystals, so you want them nice and cool. All right, so I just take some Ziploc freezer bags, and I am going to fill these up just enough. This is what I use in my pots of soup. So I'm going to probably put 3 cups, maybe 4, in each quart bag, and that will be perfect for a pot of soup. Now these ended up being about $8 a bag, but speckled butter beans are hard to find, especially in the wintertime. So these are a treasure for my big pot of vegetable beef soup. So we're going to put these in the freezer, and we're moving on to peaches. I bought a bushel basket of peaches from that same produce stand. These are delicious South Carolina peaches. I'm going to use some Sure gel, some sugar, and some lemon juice. But you need 3 pounds of peaches. There are the directions that were in the Sure gel box. And we're going to make peach jam. It is very easy, and it is so delicious. So I've measured out 3 pounds per box of recipe. I have my jars and my Presto digital canner. And we're going to get busy peeling these peaches. They were just soft to the touch, but I'm telling you, they are so sweet and delicious. So they're going to make some delicious jam. Peach jam is so good. Just a little bit on a piece of pound cake or a biscuit, or even over some ice cream. All right, I'm going to cut these in small bite-sized pieces. That's what the recipe calls for. I do trim out that middle section a little bit because that can be a little rough. We're going to put these in a nice steel pot, and I'm opening up a package of Sure gel. I'm going to pour that right in on top of the peaches. And then we're going to add a half or a fourth of a teaspoon of butter. That just prevents foaming. And then I am adding in 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and that's what keeps it from turning brown. All right, we're going to cut the stove on high, but you are not going to leave that stove. You're going to stand there stirring continually, and you keep stirring until that comes to a boil. Once it comes to a rolling boil that doesn't stop when you stir, we're going to add in the 5½ cups of sugar, and then we're just going to stir that until it's all incorporated. Then you bring it back to another boil, a rolling boil, and you set your timer for 1 minute. All right, you don't leave this alone. You stay with it because you do not want it to burn, and you're just stirring until it gets to that stage. Now, I've taken it off the heat. I have these little 1/2 pint jelly jars, and we are going to be water bath canning these. So I just fill them, leaving about a 1-inch headspace. So I'm going to put that in the jar. We're going to debubble and then wipe that rim. Make sure you get all the sticky stuff off. Then put on a lid and ring, and that is so easy. Now, I love to do this in my digital canner. It's so easy. All you have to do is hit one button and it does all the work for you. So I'm going to load that up with this jelly jar. I ended up with 7 1/2 pints of peach jam. So I'm going to put the lid back on, lock it down, and then hit the button one time, and it's going to set it for 10 minutes at a water bath canning boil. Then once it's done, it lets you know, it beeps 10 times. It says cool down, enough for you to take your jars out. That's why I love this canner. It's so easy. Look how pretty that is, and it is so delicious. Now, I do have extra peaches, so we're going to put these in the freezer with some fruit fresh and sugar. That's all you need. Same process, we're going to peel, but instead of finely chopping, I will cut these into slices. And then we're going to put these in a bowl. You're going to add 2/3 cup of sugar on top once you get your peaches cut up. And I ended up doing about 4 pounds of peaches for this. And you're going to also add in 2 teaspoons of your fruit fresh. Fruit fresh just keeps it from turning brown. And you're going to give this a good stir, mix everything together, and you let it sit for 10 minutes. Now, these peaches are good to eat partially frozen, or you can thaw these out and make peach cobbler. They're just so delicious any way you want to cook them. But this is perfect to have in your freezer. So say in the wintertime you just want a really good summer peach. You pull out a bag of these, eat them on ice cream or with some Cool Whip on a piece of pound cake, or you can make your favorite cobbler recipe. So I ended up putting up, I think it was 4 quarts in the freezer. I've got more peaches to cut up, but they were still firm. You want them kind of soft when you put these up so they're good and sweet. So any juice that's remaining in the bowl, just go ahead and pour that right over those peaches. Put the date on them and then seal them up. And I kind of like to wipe my seal good and then get the air out, seal them up, and you've got delicious fruit in your freezer for smoothies. This would be great in a smoothie. So I've got some of those put up, and I may go back and get me another bushel basket because these were absolutely delicious. So I got 4 quarts for the freezer. So now is peach season. Hit your local farmer's market or food stand, or even your grocery stores have lots of peaches in them, and you can do it 2 ways: jam, or you can freeze your peaches. But go get you some, put these in the freezer. Next day, I made some hot pepper vinegar from hot peppers that were in the garden. And I love the red ones. It just looks so much like Christmas. And you just need peppers apple cider vinegar in any kind of a jar. It doesn't have to be a canning jar. So what we're going to do, these peppers have been washed thoroughly and dried. We're going to start filling the jars with them. And hot pepper vinegar is so good on collards. So Thanksgiving and Christmas, when I make collards, my family always has to have a jar of hot pepper vinegar nearby. Just makes the collards taste wonderful. So all you have to do is pack your jar and then just pour in some of that apple cider vinegar. Make sure it's 5% acidity. And then you can keep these on the counter or in the fridge. They will keep a long time in the fridge. So these are also great for gifts if you want to make some and give these as Christmas gifts. Peppers are so easy to grow. You don't have to have a garden. You could certainly grow these in pots. So think about that next year if you want to grow your own peppers. The longer you leave them on the vine, they will turn red. And that's what I love about the red and green. It's so Christmassy. Then you just put on your lid, and I put both of these jars in the refrigerator for the holidays. Look how pretty that is. So make you some hot pepper vinegar. All right, another day this week, I pulled out my Roma tomatoes from the garden that I picked back in July, and now I have the energy to do something with them. So I'm going to make some pizza sauce with these. I've got bell pepper, onion, some Italian seasoning, garlic, and some olive oil. These were frozen, so all I have to do is get them to thaw out a little bit, and the peelings fall right off. They're very easy, and I loved saving these for when I had more energy and felt like doing it, and I love to make my own pizza or pasta sauce. So I'm chopping up 2 onions finely and 2 bell peppers. I had 2 small ones. Then I've got some garlic already minced. And what I'm going to be doing while those tomatoes are softening up and I can get those peelings off, I will take this to the stove and just saute these in some olive oil. So I've got my little Dutch oven there, and I'm just going to cook these until they're translucent, and then we're going to add these to our tomatoes. All right, in my big pot, I've got the tomatoes, and I'm going to start cutting these into chunks. See how easy that skin just peels right off? That is wonderful. So I'm just going to cut these up in the big pot, and then we're going to take this over to the stove, and we're going to bring it to a boil, adding in the onions and the peppers. Okay, on the stove I have my big pot of cut up Roma tomatoes, and now I'm adding in the sauteed onions and bell peppers. And then I'm going to bring this to a boil and boil it for about 10 minutes. All right, I have taken it off the stove and let it cool, and now I am going to puree all of these tomatoes, and I want to make sure that I do not let the seeds get in my sauce. So first step, I am taking my food processor on high and just processing that, and then I've got a strainer that I'm going to use to strain out those seeds in thick pulp. So I just take my spoon and go around and round, pushing down the pulp and the seeds, and I just want the pure tomato juice to come out. There's that pulp. I take that out and then empty my strainer right into that bowl. And I just continue this process a little bit at a time. It is very time consuming, but you don't want tomato seeds in your pizza or pasta sauce. So I did that with that whole pot, and now I've got a beautiful pot of nice tomato juice. And what I'm going to do is add my seasonings. I've got 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning, and I'm going to be using 2 tablespoons of canning salt. Now I am going to be adding in some sugar. I did a taste test, so I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of sugar. And then I'm going to bring this to a boil, then cook it at a medium heat, and I want this to reduce down. Now you can see this has been on the stove for 4 hours, and you can see how far it has reduced down. If you wanted a really, really thick sauce, you could add a can of tomato paste, but this is fine. I am going to water bath this into the 1/2 pint jars because when I make pizza for my husband and myself, I really only need a 1/2 pint jar. So I'm going to ladle this right into the hot jars, and then we're going to water bath can these for 25 minutes. All right, I'm filling it up to the 1-inch headspace, debubbling. Wipe that rim good. I do add a teaspoon of lemon juice. That just helps add acidity to the jar. So I add a teaspoon of lemon juice, put on a lid, and then we're going to put this right back into the Presto digital canner and water bath this for 25 minutes. All right, the canner is ready to go, so I'll put the lid back on, lock it down in place. Look at all those beautiful jars of pizza sauce. We're going to lock this down and then just hit the button and it will take off. It heats the water and then it water bath cans for the amount of time, and then it will beep and let me know when it is done. So I got 9 1/2 pints. And I also have 1 quart bag in the freezer of pizza sauce. Now I like to make my own pizza dough, but sometimes when we're in a rush, I will buy French bread and we'll have French bread pizzas. I just love homemade pizza. So that's something you can do with those delicious Roma tomatoes right out of the garden. So that is my week of preserving food. I've got a lot planned for next week, so I hope you'll join with me. Thank you for watching. Y'all have a very blessed day.